Well, I'm so happy because right now I have Pat Sperry here on the podcast. And Pat, thank you so much for joining me. Can you tell me, well, first of all, how are you feeling today?
Todd, good morning, brother. I'm feeling well. I'm feeling well. We have um, some road construction happening in not too far away from home. So every night from like 1 o'clock until five, there's this low level thump, 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 thump. And that's just kind of like in and out of sleep. So I'm getting used to it.
Yeah,
And, and I feel um, a little bit tired perhaps, but ultimately just
understood.
grateful to be here with you, tuning in from San Diego, California.
Yes, love San Diego. Where in San Diego are you?
I'm in a place called Mount Helix,
Okay.
which is a part of a city called La Mesa,
Oh, yeah.
maybe like
Nice.
25 minutes east of the West Coast, the beach.
Yeah.
We have a beautiful property here with some acres and fruit trees and a lot of privacy, which feels like a sanctuary for sure.
That's cool. How far from Julian are you?
We love to go to Descanso, which is about 15 minutes from Julian, and I'd
Okay.
say Julian is 70 minutes, 75 minutes. With no, there's not a lot of traffic in San Diego, so I descended from Los Angeles to find like a groovy city with a lot going on that was a little bit more relaxed.
Yeah.
That's one of the best parts, so we can shoot around and get to where we're going pretty unimpeded here.
Oh, that's amazing. It's so beautiful there. My wife and I used to run a Bikram yoga studio in Mira Mesa, on Mira Mesa Boulevard, closer to the 15. And so I am familiar with actually I'm trying to remember if I've been to La Mesa, but that's such a beautiful part of the country. Well,
We're spoiled to be here. It's expensive and a lot of people want to live here, but
yeah, it
uh,
is.
it's for a reason. Yeah, it's a
Right.
beautiful part of the
Oh,
world.
man. I hear you, man. Well, I got a chance to read about your path and your journey with yoga, but hearing about it is always much richer experience than reading, in my opinion. See what the brief overview. So I'm excited to just ask you some questions about how you got to where you are now. On that note, can you talk a little bit about that? What was your intro into the world of yoga?
Well, Todd, most of us love the subject matter of me, and I appreciate your interest in my life. It's always fun to tell the story. And, my hope is that anything that's shared about me is relatable to anybody who would be listening, because we all go through the same stuff. Um, but my first, I don't know, you can look back in life and say I was just enamored by nature and I was creative and writing music and all of that. Once you get through like, you know, the practice and you spend time doing your sadhana, life becomes yoga. So somehow I was just connected to life in a beautiful way. I had an expansive vision of what was possible. But I would say formally, the first introduction to yoga, which maybe came through Buddhism or spirituality, was in college. I was an athlete at the University of Michigan. In my senior year, there was a very easy class that a lot of athletes took because it was an automatic A and it was supposed to be really fun. And it was called Jazz 450
Mm.
with Martha Travers. And Martha Travers was this really groovy woman who taught the music school mindfulness to support them in their songwriting, in their composition. So Jazz 450 was like Tai Chi and sitting meditation and learning about the Tao. And it really woke something up within me. I got all the paraphernalia right away, a zafu, like Tibetan robes, and I was playing the part. I bought a flute. I remember bringing my flute to class and I asked her if I could like, lead the opening meditation or maybe she asked me to. And I started doing what I could do like on this little blues scale and she's like, "Just play one note.
Mm.
Play it long, play it slow." And these little seeds that she planted
Yeah.
um, really shifted like my personality and my interest. I came to California from Michigan in pursuit of fame, creative glory. I was chasing the dream of being a rock star, and I cut a bunch of records and was doing the Hollywood thing, the music thing, which I loved. And my best buddy brought me a yoga DVD, Rodney Yee, Gayam, Yoga Burn. And my first Shavasana, like that was pretty much it. I touched something that I had been looking for, uh, whether it was through smoking grass or having peak experiences. And there was this same type of freedom that I felt. And within 9 days later, I was signed up for yoga teacher training and I
Hmm.
became like all in. I lived at the yoga studio and that was the beginning, and I haven't looked back. That was probably 2009.
What studio was that in LA?
It was at a Ma Pa local studio called Liberation Yoga.
Cool. Nice.
Didn't quite make it through the pandemic, but it was around for 20 plus years and
Wow.
was a beautiful space of community where it's just a non-pretentious, eclectic, creative space that nurtured my teaching and practice for sure.
Very cool. And I noticed that you have a background in Iyengar Yoga, and you've been able to go so far as to become certified in Iyengar Yoga, which, for those listening that don't know what different certifications and different styles entail, typically certification for Iyengar is known to be relatively rigorous. Like it's not just a quick weekend type of training. Can you tell me a little bit about your journey in the world of Iyengar?
Thanks for asking. Yeah, I was blessed to have like an Iyengar inspired teacher was my first teacher. And I remember his first class in teacher training. I was so angry and I really hated this guy because we were holding poses for so long and it was so challenging for me. And he had a great sense of humor. So he was having fun and I was suffering. And I thought this was sadistic and I wanted, to take my strap but it was we had a great rapport and we built a friendship. So after teacher training, I started apprenticing with him for like 2.5 years. I was at every class, leading the invocation to Patanjali, making adjustments, watching people practice. And as you know, you just see bodies so many times that the misalignments or the corrections and that observational skill becomes really important as part of your teaching tool. But after Pagan, who was this initial teacher, I was in LA and the Iyengar Yoga Institute was in LA, and we would have great teachers from around the world come to hold workshops. I was just there. I was always there. I lived in that studio.
Yeah.
I was just soaking it up. I really became emblazoned with passion about the subject. And there was a couple good opportunities that came my way. Some big teachers at this initial studio who had big followings left, and they said, "Well, Patrick's always here. Let him take my class." And that was a great chance for me to then teach. And as you know, I mean, we talked a little bit before this meeting. Teaching is so energizing and
Yeah.
so healing. Like no matter what you're carrying as an individual, we're all holding our human stuff. And teaching is this medicine which just can shift, for me, even more so than the practice. Sometimes I leave from teaching and I feel reborn, reset, reconnected. But it took me 7 years to get certified in Iyengar Yoga.
Wow.
I went
Yeah.
in for 18 months and studied with a really amazing teacher in Rishikesh named Usha Devi for 6 months. And that was like 6 hours a day, every day, and just living and breathing practice. And then at the Institute in Pune, I was there for 4 months with Geeta Iyengar, which was a real honor for me. Mr. Iyengar's daughter, his son Prashant, and then, of course, Abhijata is now running the lineage. That's Iyengar's granddaughter. And I wasn't certified even up until that point. I was just practicing and showing up. But then there's this path. There's two paths of certification in Iyengar Yoga. One is like a 3 year formal teacher training, and the other one is through mentorship. So I had a couple mentors who stewarded my journey through certification. But then there's some requirements, like you need a certain amount of years of practice in the lineage before signing up for teacher training or before taking on that mentorship. I wasn't in a rush to get the certification. By the time I did, I was definitely prepared
Sounds
to
like
be an
it.
introductory teacher. Yeah.
What are your thoughts now when you observe our yoga landscape in relation to the way teacher trainings can be conducted? And I guess what I'm alluding to is some are more rigorous, like what you're talking about with Iyengar Yoga. Some are less rigorous, where I'll just leave it at that. What is your feelings in relation to the amount of time you put into preparation versus and how does that translate into connecting to yoga and with students, in your opinion?
It's a great question, Todd, and I'm sure you have some valuable insight into this question because I see that you're hosting teacher trainings and moving people through that process. And I've done, before I got certified in Iyengar Yoga, I did several 300-hour teacher trainings with the idea that I could start leading teacher trainings, even if I wasn't certified in Iyengar Yoga. And for me, those experiences were super precious. And I lead teacher training now at a studio in San Diego called Reunify. We have 200 and 300 hour. Great. It's really the beginning. And my ego was bruised many years ago when somebody pointed out that it doesn't matter how good looking you are, how charming you are, as far as being a musician goes, when the lights go down and your voice resonates through the hall, you got to have the goods. You can't fake it really. And people can sort that out. If you're sensitive and your radar is receptive, to authenticity, then somebody who really knows what they're talking about separates themselves from somebody who is really young, perhaps in their practice. So I would encourage people to do it, to sign up. It changed my life. It was 9 days after doing my first yoga class that I took the plunge into 200 hours, and I became a vegetarian at that point. I'm not anymore, but I was for 13 years. And I felt supported and part of a community. And a lot of those folks who went through it are probably still practicing, some maybe not. So a few will take it all the way and make it like, the centerpiece of their life. And if you impart that path to somebody, Todd, as a teacher, as a studio owner, then I think that's a huge service to life. But it is the beginning, and your practice is the most important piece of all of this. So when you're in a good practice, your teaching is going to be connected, and if you do your teacher training and start teaching but stop practicing, I think it's just going to become exhausting.
I hear you. That's a great answer, and I do agree with everything you said. It's really good points. Did you, because like you made mention, we had a chance to connect before we hit record. Can you give me a little understanding of your journey through the world of sport, hypermasculinity, and how yoga has transformed your experience of your understanding of who you are?
Well, I'm wearing this costume with the long hair and all of that. Soften the edge of my intensity. This is part of the game. But I was sharing with you earlier that I came up as an elite athlete, and I was on the US national team as a goalkeeper for men's soccer when I was 14. And then I went to the University of Michigan on a scholarship, and I was a Big Ten athlete. And I had like a thick neck and, huge quads, and I had to work really hard. It's really great though, because it gave me and instilled this quality of discipline where it was very clear that if you put the work in, then you receive the reward. And having an ongoing yoga practice, as you know, this like attitude of tapas, paired with this attitude of surrender and faith and all of that, which maybe wasn't in place as much when I was competing, uh, can really support this continuation of practice. So that was a blessing. Just inherently, I
Mhm.
carry that. It's part of who I am as a person. But I mean, I basically quit soccer because I ended up fighting with my coaches, pushing my teammates over in practice, and I was so aggressive. And I demanded so much out of the world around me, this like level of excellence. And I held myself to this incredibly unrealistic expectation of being the best. A lot of that was imparted by my devoted father, who was really involved in my successes and failures, emotionally kind of wore my life on his heart. And that was a bit of a burden to share because the implications of my failures, which would be like losing, would affect him in such a deep way. And that was challenging to navigate.
Whoa, well said. Nice synopsis of the whole father-son
Mm.
experience from the way you experienced it. That was good.
And it was this great blessing too, because in part that drove me to seek myself. Like, who am I without sharing my life with my family and having this identity, which was a heavy weight to carry. So it took me to California to define myself. And California, a lot of the great gurus of India and of spiritual traditions came to California to set up their ashrams or institutes because people who come to California have a seeker's mindset. Like they're looking for something, they're looking for fame, for, you know, the possibility for a greater expression in life. You're musicians, actors, models, and whatnot. There's a promise for something more. So that type of mentality is kind of cultured towards spirituality if you just shift the gaze to looking for something more in a different direction, like within yourself.
Great point.
Yeah.
So true, right? When we look at the history in relation to the gold rush and like you said,
Mhm.
currently with the Hollywood industry and truly with the spiritual element, like Yogananda's ashram at Swami's there in Encinitas, what an incredible property. Amazing too to think that somebody gifted that to him. I don't know what the real logistics are, but the storyline I heard, is somebody who had that land, here, let's use this for your hermitage. And oh man, what an incredible spot. What other spiritual yoga lineages have you tapped into in the Southern California area that have given you lots of motivation and inspiration?
When I found out about yoga, I bought every book on yoga and spirituality and kind of fell in love and started again. Like I collect things to validate my existence, and now I don't need those things as much. I had the pictures of saints just sprung. It was like a museum. It was interesting. I think my parents were worried about me. They're like, "Who all of these people?" But I tapped into Muktananda through Siddha Yoga, and he had this beautiful ashram complex set up. And Amma would always come through Southern California and give her darshan, the hugging saint, right? And then, of course, there was like a flag in the ground for Iyengar Yoga and Yogananda's self-realization ship was a big part of it as well, because not only do we have this in San Diego, but there's several places like Mount Washington and the Pacific Palisades Lake Shrine, which were they're energetic places. So in all of my zeal to go to this like new world, which was like a little recluse in the middle of the jungle of, insanity of Los Angeles, it was really a peaceful place to go and meditate and to just open up to this whole new world of possibilities.
Yeah, that's cool, man. What I know we share a common thread with having sat Vipassana meditation retreats in the lineage of Goenka, which is like
Mm.
a 10-day silent retreat. I'm curious, where was your first 10-day sit?
The first 10-day sit was in Yellowstone.
Mm.
So it was groovy.
In Yellowstone, like a almost like they set camp up there for you guys to do a course in.
It was just on the perimeter of Yellowstone. So
Okay.
on day 11, I was like 30 minutes to the redwoods and just soaking up all that silence.
Whoa. Yeah, it's so
It's really
beautiful up
cool.
there. Oh my
What
God.
about you? I'm curious, Todd, and do you share this
Uh,
practice with your student base and your community? Do you guys sit together, or is this more of a personal sadhana that you've taken on?
Oh, good question. So I I had traversed different meditation lineages, and when I was living in San Diego, a student that had come to when we had the Bikram Yoga Studio had a bumper sticker on her bumper that said, "Doing Vipassana, doing fine." And I was like, I have no idea what that even means. And I said, "What is your bumper sticker? What is that?" And she's like, she was very quiet about it. She didn't really want to talk about it. And not in a way of like secrecy, but more she had such a profound experience when she would go and sit that I think sometimes, when you try to explain something that's inexplainable, you just stop trying to explain it. And so I that really piqued my curiosity. And because she didn't really want to explain it, it made me want to go even more. It made me more curious. And so upon at that time my wife and I had moved back to Florida here in Florida, and I there's a center in Georgia in a town called Jessup, which is the closest center for us here in the southeast region. So my first course was there, and I had set up us sitting together every Sunday morning early, like 6:30 a.m. for an hour, and doing that with just students that were old students that had completed a 10-day course. Then I started to let that loosen a little bit and allow people who hadn't done a 10-day course, which I know is a little bit of a faux pas in that
Mm.
whole world. But at the same time, I was just thinking more like the more we meditate, the better. And I understand the logistics of like, let's make sure someone gets a true initiation into the experience before we maybe ruin the experience maybe for somebody. There's so many different ways to look at it. I'd love to hear what you have to say now that you've been in the world for a while, because personally, I just start now. I guess if I jump forward, my meditation practice, I keep it way more loose. I'm a lot less like hitting the timer for the 1 hour long full sit 2 times a day style, and just more like I have 5 minutes right now where my kids don't need me and my wife doesn't need me and I can sneak over here into the corner of my bedroom where I have my cushion set, and 5 minutes I'm like, dude, I got 5 minutes. That's amazing. I feel so happy I got 5 minutes. And I also like the challenge of, how when we're cultured to like, okay, you have to sit for 1 hour, and you get that culture going, and then you think you need the full hour to get the full thing. And I like trying to like almost make as much use of a 5 minute period as possible and be comfortable with that. Like just like that's okay and be happy with that. So I've kind of loosened my grip on the rules in Vipassana, but I have full respect for it. I have full respect for those that walk that path and hold really strong and true to that. So but what do you think? Where are you these days with all that?
So it's just lovely to consider all of this with another practitioner, and I enjoy the conversation. So again, thanks for having me here. This is
Yeah.
a fun way to start the day.
Thanks, Pat.
I love Ram Dass so much,
Oh,
and I
yes.
think he was the beginning, actually, if I really look back, like getting Be Here Now and getting my mind blown, uh,
Yeah.
what connected me so much. And I remember like, feeling so close to God and feeling connected, and I was savoring that. And then maybe I like, when I was probably 21 in Hollywood, I might have gone out drinking or like smoked a cigarette and just lamenting to my teacher that I've lost it. I had a chance to make it and I just blew it. And only to realize that this coming and going is, the never-ending game that we play. And getting back to your practice is a great way to reconnect. And we want to try to sustain that. But life happens, and being hard on yourself doesn't help, but it's also human. So we just gradually go along our way. I was so I'm such like a striver, and I try so hard, and I usually burn out 3 times a year, not as much anymore, but it wasn't too long ago, especially with my business Flourish. Like I really pour my heart into building this thing out and growing it, and it's my purpose and mission at this point. So I have to also learn how to navigate that with like a gradual approach, even though I'm sometimes really driving it. But with yoga, Vipassana was one of those practices which was kind of hard. And my Iyengar yoga practice was hard, or it was just fierce, and it required a lot out of me. So I've tried everything, and I went traveling for 4 years, and I collected a bunch of spiritual trophies and got initiated into a Taoist lineage, practicing Kung Fu in China. And I got initiated into Reiki and different types of yogas in India, like not Yogananda's version of Kriya Yoga, but other styles of internal meditations and things like that. And I did Vipassana, but I also did transcendental meditation, which for the first time felt very easy. And it was like, so I would look forward to it because it was a relief and I didn't really have to do anything. That method is quite different. It's not strict. It doesn't even give so much of a technique. It's loose. And in that loose space, like I just felt like there was a lot of uh, like heart. I felt free in that space, but it also didn't quite penetrate as deeply as like the gaze that you take on in Vipassana. So I went to Thailand and I sat with for like a month with these, and I was coming off of a breakup. So like that really intense Vipassana style, I was avoiding it. I
Ah,
didn't I
yeah,
didn't need that. It wasn't the medicine for my life at that moment.
yeah.
So it took me a while. I was traveling through Thailand and I had signed up for so many Vipassanas, but then I would drop out because like, another wayfarer traveler would say, "No, dude, this is the one you want to go to. I'm telling you." And then I would lean into that, but then something else would show it. Finally, I ended up at this Wat Tam Pu Forest Monastery in Mae Hong Song, and it was optional silence. So that was loose.
I like it.
And I kept silence most of the time, but I made some like really beautiful connections, and maybe we would share some like intentional conversation at times, which just felt like it was a good space for me to be in. Their style of practice was not as rigorous. The sitting wasn't as long. And it was really the following of the breath, like this anapana, in and out, focus here, come back when the mind is leaving the moment, and then tether a mantra to that breath as well to help you just stay connected to the practice. But more importantly, they taught everyday walking meditation through the forest with the same mantra, but focusing on the footsteps and the lifting of the toes and the setting down of the heel. And you would walk so slow. I mean, it was wonderful. It would take us an hour to go 100 yards or so. It was insane. And we were walking with the monks and we were feeding the monks in their begging bowls in the morning. And it was so beautiful and it was so approachable. So I teach like a simple walking meditation at Flourish events and like the instructions of how to do this. I wouldn't feel like I was spoiling the surprise because Vipassana happens, that initiation over the course of 10 days. And each day, more or less, something new is revealed, culminating in like the full practice. But here, there's no, you can come for one day and get the practice. You don't have to stay for a week. And that's what I practice now more so than the Goenka style Vipassana. And it's me giving myself the gift of not having to try so hard and just being able to connect. I
Yeah,
need that. I need
yeah.
that. Some other people who maybe lack discipline and are just lazy could use, not that you are, but
Understood.
like everyone has their own temperament and there's so many different practices, not only for
Yep.
different types of people, but for different phases of life. There'll be a time, and I crave it now that I have a family. I recently moved in with my partner. She has 3 kids. I'm like, I need a 10-day silent meditation, Vipassana style, to just be with me and do that work and hit it.
I hear you, man. I love hearing this too. It's great to these conversations like this where we just meet up out of the blue and get to trade notes, and compare. It's a really fun experience. Thank you so much for sharing all that. I learned so much of that. I think it brings validity to time in the saddle and us letting go so tightly of the reins, because like would you agree that there's so much zeal at the onset of the potential for what lies ahead in terms of spiritual growth, and then enough time on that saddle, we just start letting go a little bit, and being okay with that is such an incredible
Inevitable.
thing. It's like you're right. I mean, I can relate to everything you said. I feel like I'd put so much pressure on myself to even within a practice that is potentially designed to release some of that pressure. And I can attest 100% too at that type A kind of like I take everything to the nth degree, and I find like what I'm so thankful for now, because for me, the nth degree has amounted to physical pain.
Hmm.
Physical pain for me has been one of the best teachers. Like I almost think my guru now is pain, but
Hmm.
not in a like a weird sadistic kind of masochistic thing. Or I'm learning to be less I'm it's teaching, I don't know, it's just teaching me direct experience to just chill out, Todd. Like freaking chill out, dude. Take it easy.
Todd,
You know,
it's true. Yeah, it's true, brother.
yeah.
It is guru. And in all of the initiatory stories that are told about boys to men, rites of passage, there's always a leg wound, in fact, that comes up
Mm.
at a certain point in the story, which
Like in
forces
like in the myth, there's a continuance of the leg wound in different myths throughout
that's
this.
motif.
No way, I've never heard that before. Tell me about that.
It is, and that requires the hero to slow down,
Huh.
to get
I'm
off the
gonna
horse
look
that
for
he's
that.
racing
Yeah.
on and to sit down. And in that sitting down, you have to deal with yourself and start to do this bucket work,
Mm.
which is a metaphor of,
Yeah.
dealing with your emotional world. And you've got a lake and you've got a bucket and you got to drain that lake and get to the bottom of it. And that takes time. And there's so many parables, as you know, about taking time on the spiritual path, the yogi meditating for 100 years, where an ant hill is built around him with two eyes just sticking out, and Shiva walks through the forest and he bursts out saying, Shiva, when will I be liberated? And Shiva's like, 3 more lifetimes, Yogi. And the guy is pissed. He's like, what? I've been sitting here not moving. I've got ants crawling all over me. Oh my God. And then he's walking through the forest. Shiva's doing his dance, and he comes upon a bhakti yogi dancing around the tree, going, Hara Hara Mahadeva Shambho. He's just singing and he's in his heart. And he says, Oh, Shiva, Shiva, Hara Hara Mahadev, when will I be liberated? Please tell me, I must know. He said, Count every leaf on every tree in the forest, and that's how many lifetimes you have left before your liberation. And this ecstatic yogi is just overcome with joy. Wonderful. What great news. Alas, I know that my liberation, is inevitable. And in that moment, Shiva liberates him.
Mm.
Uh, the Buddhists say, like, your attachment to enlightenment also has to be released, because that's still a desire. And this freedom from wanting and clinging to the outcome is really hard for the Western mind. And the practitioner is seeking something, but we already are that which we seek. And it's a funny game, right? It's ripe with paradox. And eventually, Ramdas says that every practice worth its salt has to self-destruct. It's a method. You use that like a boat to cross the river, and when you get to the other side, only a fool would keep dragging the boat with him, behind. You you got there, so you let it go, and that's what the practice is for. So it
Yeah.
will change, and
Yeah.
eventually it will probably go away, but that's like with a caution, because we can't cut ourselves off from our practice prematurely. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, I think a lot of the great teachers and gurus of, like, the last century, some maybe have like lost their way. I wouldn't say who, or even assume that I know, because maybe they're playing a different type of game. But like, you harness an audience, like you attain some power, a lot of energy, and yoga talks about cities, and you access these kind of mysterious powers, and they are a distraction from the goal. Patanjali says, don't use them, forget about it, keep going. It's a side path. So I think that assurance, even for the great ones, is to keep going with your sadhana. But then you have somebody like Nim Karoli Baba, Ramdas's guru, who I don't think had a method. And maybe he wasn't required to do. But he did write in his book every day, like 2 pages of Ram. And he had a whole library of journals that just said Ram, Ram, Ram,
Whoa.
Ram.
Whoa, I never heard that.
Uh-huh. A page
Wow.
or two a day. And
Dude, I
maybe
love
he
that.
kept him connected, even
Have
he
you tried doing that? Have you tried that practice? I've never
just
tried that.
writing.
Just one word over and over and over again, and page after page after page. What an interesting concept for a meditation practice. I suppose it's no different than chanting the same word over and over again. It's just like a repetition of something so simple, bringing it down, like boiling it down into the most simple. The other day it was funny. I had a full day, a longer day, and I got to the end of my day and I was like packing up, and I just all of a sudden it popped in my head like chop wood, carry water, chop
Mm,
wood, carry water. Just keep doing it. Just keep going. Like, because sometimes I'll get so wrapped up in like thinking like how much longer, like not so much in terms of retirement. Like I kind of figure I want to work through, I want to be involved in
mm,
yoga and being around people. It's so much fun. Like I don't see why I would ever say like, all right, I'm retired, everybody. I'm gonna go hang out in my house and I'm just not gonna interact with the world anymore. Isn't that a funny? Tell me a little bit about your thoughts on retirement. What do you when you think about your life? And I mean, you did bring up that you're in a house and you have a new family and you're in the householder role. Do you even contemplate retirement? Or are you not even thinking about that now? What is your thoughts on all that?
yeah, I'm like a very purpose-driven person and also like a creative person. We all are, right? But I've been making art and creating businesses and doing this thing in the world, which is so deeply fulfilling for me that if I kind of detach um, from that, I think I would feel like I just wasn't. It's service essentially, right? Like at this point, my purpose is to share all of the gifts that I've been giving, to take what I've gleaned from my practice and impart that which I can to support the upliftment of others. And I love having fun, and it's really fun to share incredible moments with other people. And I've kind of done like the live in the cave thing. So that's not retirement, but it's like a form of renunciation. But I don't want to renounce like my action in the world. I just want to renounce my attachment to the outcomes of all of my actions, which causes me a lot of stress, you know? So for me, what would retirement look like? I mean, I love traveling. I love my practice. I love the people in my life, my partner, and I don't know if I ever will. I certainly won't stop creating, and
Mm,
I won't stop
mhm,
collaborating. I love the collaborative
mhm.
process. That's why I like filmmaking a lot. Um, and just to kind of drop a little bit more detail on what I'm doing, this company I founded 4 years ago called Flourish. Um, it's an event and retreat company, and we create these really unique experiences. We brought 22 people to India last year for 14 days. We went to 5 cities. It was like an ambitious program during Diwali festival. And we set it up so that we were going to have satsang and lectures with some of the great saints of India. And we were going to do block printing and all of these amazing things. And these are the high times of my life. So I basically create scenarios of like, what would I want to do more than anything in the world right now? And then I build that and invite other people to sign up and come
Nice.
along
And
experience. And there's always
yeah.
yoga and practice, but there's culture and connection to the nth degree and celebration. We're going to Peru November 1st to November 11th this year. And again, like just connecting with that indigenous tradition of shamanism and earth care and earth magic and the portals and power and standing on the rim of Machu Picchu with 20 other souls and just holding that. I think my father will come on this trip. He's turning 70. So that's a lot of fun for me. I love it. And I don't think I would stop. Um,
Good
Elsewise,
answer.
I'd have to become a songwriter again and keep bringing beauty into the world.
Good point. I like that. So, I mean, I get the feeling like even if you weren't generating revenue through the process, you would still be involved in creating something. Like, I'd have to write a song. I'd wanna create art. I'd want to be in connection with other people. How do you see any, when you look at the world of money, do you see money as currency? And so therefore you're just generating currency like you would prana, or is it is it a little trickier than that? And these are personal questions, and these are harder questions because they're, what are we supposed to not talk about? Money, God, and what's the other one? Politics.
I
So,
think that's
well,
right. So we won't talk
let's stay
about
away
the
from the politics.
yesterday. That's
That's what
fresh.
we can both agree upon.
I
Let's
was
not
so
go there.
upset last night. I was just in my bed, like, oh, I don't know where to go with this. That was
Let's
hard to
not.
watch.
Yeah, let's not even go there. But if we were to go on the taboo path of money, is that something that you feel like is flowing for you easily, or is it something that is a continuous challenge?
It's a great question, and I don't want to, hide who I am at this point. I share my story, but to tell this tale, it's interesting for me. We all have a unique predicament, right? That we're trying to sort out. And my karma was to be born in a fairly affluent community outside of Chicago, and I was a pretty spoiled kid. I mean, I don't think it translated to my attitude, but I got everything that I needed or wanted without really having to work for it. Even to the point where my father like didn't want me to work. There was times like when I was a teenager where I really wanted a summer job, and of course I was playing soccer at this high level and had a lot of responsibility as an athlete, but I was kind of deprived like a certain initiation into the workforce because I didn't have to consider that so much growing up. And then when I came out to California and I was trying to make my way, like I had some support from my family, so I didn't have to worry about failing or like, being destitute. Yet I kind of resented that because I didn't have this drive to make it with the consequence that if you don't, you're going to be out on the street or whatever. So that level of security in some way has hindered me and been a bit of a handicap. And it's always two things, right? It's been a blessing because it allowed me to pursue and cultivate my talents and my creativity and all of that. But it also cut me off from, I think, a certain type of drive that could have changed the outcome of some of my efforts.
Mm,
Because a lot of
love that.
musicians, you look at people like John Lennon and some of the greats, like they didn't really have a choice whether to make it or not. And you approach, getting it done different way if that's where you're coming from. Now, my business is generating some income. Is it ever enough? You know, I don't know. I have a nice house. My partner is also financially stable. We're trying to build Flourish together. We're growing it, and there's not a ton of pressure to produce. But again, there's strings attached to family dynamics, and that affects the relationships that you have with the people on the other side who are supporting your dreams. So it's a different situation, maybe, than a lot of people, but it's complex and it hurts me and it helps me all at the same time.
Yeah, that is a great answer, and I appreciate your honesty. And I really like hearing all that because I find it so fascinating to, like you said, there's so many angles and so many aspects to it. But thank you so much for being honest about it. I appreciate it. And I like the way that you're thinking it through and seeing it from all the different angles. That's really cool, man. I mean, what sort of challenges are you facing, and how are you choosing to face them in relation to taking on raising three children? Because parenting, co-parenting, parenting in general, being a mentor, however we want to look at parenting, I guess I'm curious because of based off of your personal experience. Like when I guess I'll start the story real quick and to ask a question. Um, like you made mention of the way that you were able to recognize the role that your dad played in his wanting you to perform in sports was challenging. It was really great. It's amazing to have a parent put all of their energy and attention into us. It's also really challenging to hold that level, that standard for so long and so high. And so
Mhm.
then as a parent myself, when my samskaras, my habit patterns that I ingrained from my own parent-child dynamic. Now I'm with my children and I can see, I mean, I know every parent listening to this obviously is, I mean, I don't see how you couldn't at some point go, that was my dad. I just said what my dad said to me my whole life, or that was my mom, or whatever. So, and it's so revealing and just amazing. And I'm so thankful for the experience and the opportunity. Are you noticing the same thing? And can you give an example of where maybe that did or did not occur? And how are you navigating this environment?
Thank you for inviting this inquiry. And it's a little different. It's a little different. Catalina and I are looking into having children of our own, and that's a whole different discovery process, and it's ripe with vulnerability. And we're going to the doctors, and I'm getting my semen counted for the first time, and all of these different things. So that's exciting to imagine. For me, having my own child in the world, that's going to be a different thing. The dynamic for me to come in to these three wonderful young women's lives, there's a 7, 13, and 15-year old. I'm not their dad, and I didn't cultivate their worldview or influence them from their impressionable years. So I feel not like a father as much as a friend, almost like an uncle, but I love these girls a lot. And it's a real dance because as much as I want to impart my wisdom and my perspective in certain situations, there's times where they don't want to hear it. First off, because I'm not their dad, and having a new male authority figure in their life takes time for them. So I need to be very patient with this integration process because Catalina and I have been dating now for 3 years, and we've had a relationship, me and the girls, for that long. But we're 2 months into this cohabitating, and everybody demands their own space and has their own way of relating. Luckily for me, I have this man's cave with a yoga studio, the bedroom, which is a blessing. So I can come down here and do my work, and they can be, living their life in full force upstairs. But yeah, sometimes I feel rejected sometimes. Like I'm experiencing new thoughts that I've never had, like I got to get out of the house. I never out of the house before and like go by myself to the river, um, just to like reconnect with my own energy because there's so much exchange here, as you know, like our auric fields extend out in every direction, and we're exchanging energy all the time. And sometimes their energy is chaotic, and it's not like a sweet vibration, but I believe there's no errors in the game, and that my karma and my life has brought me to this point for a reason, and that I can use this as like a steep path of yoga. Relationship is a steep path of yoga if you choose it to awaken, and having three stepchildren suddenly is maybe an even more steep path of awakening because her mother's there. And um, it's really, I like this type of thing, like just to round this off, I was living in a place called Ojai. It's a beautiful nook in California, south of Santa Barbara. And I was just crushing it. I was so fit. I was on my bike. I was running, practicing yoga, building out Flourish. And the time came when I got called to San Diego by a group of five spiritual entrepreneurs my age, and they wanted me to fill the open room in their community. And I was like, well, this is really interesting. I haven't lived in community since I was like, in the soccer house at Michigan, and that was a different type of culture. And it just felt like there was a huge opportunity for growth to lean into this new experience of living with five folks who I didn't know and really practicing authenticity, vulnerability, having those hard conversations to keep things really clear in the space. And that was wonderful for my evolution as a mature masculine energy. And San Diego really opened up to receive me. And then this next step was like, yeah, 2.5 years in the commune. Like I feel like I got most of what I came for out of that, and this is the next frontier of
Yeah.
a bit of a masochist. I just like to suffer. So throw yourself into the fire. I mean, any yogi worth his salt has to do the same. Put your arm up for 8 years until it falls off. What are you doing? This is my version of that. Been hard and beautiful, and I'm all in.
Good answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Well, you have an eloquent ability, you have a great ability to be eloquent in your delivery of words. Does that just come natural? I mean, I'm not trying to toot your horn and like,
Kids call it
fluff your
Riz.
ego, but you have a good way of explaining and being clear about it. I can tell that you obviously like just within the experience of, like you said, being in a commune situation where if we are intentionally going to all try to live together, it is important to have the hard conversations because it will just blow up. One person will just bail, another will bail. It'll get ugly. All
Right.
sorts of crazy things will happen. So you're right. There's so much growth potential in that. And I love the fact that you're taking on the new adventure with that sort of I can do this. I got this, but man, it is challenging at times. And I think we have to be honest about that in our family lives, right? I mean, it's a lot. It's funny. My son is turning 18 and my daughter's 11 and he's a senior in high school. So I'm having this every time he comes down the stairs, every time I see him eating breakfast, every time he's walking out the door, I'm like, I'm savoring every second of it. But when he was born, I couldn't wait for this moment. Like I was like, this is so hard. Every
Mm,
moment, I finally understood what the word babysit means. It means you have to sit with the baby. You
mm.
cannot go and make food, have a shower, or make a phone call. You can't. Like it takes so much attention. So now that it's actually at the other side where he's getting ready to leave, I'm like, no, how did that happen so fast? It's such an amazing journey. So I guess, and listening to your story, I'm thinking, before you know it, these three girls are going to be gone and off and running, and you're going to just be like, I can't believe that that's over. It's amazing. It happens so fast. But I'm so excited to hear that you're thinking about having kids too, and I do wish you best of luck in the journey because it is an amazing journey for sure. In relation to, I know we went down a little bit on the thread of masculinity, hyper masculinity, and you do offer men's retreats. And in the yoga world, I mean, I remember when I first started, there was this little bit of a kind of thing of like, you're going to a yoga class. Well, that's for girls.
Mhm.
It's a feminine thing.
Yeah.
And I remember people kind of maybe, I don't want to say questioning my masculinity, but just, you maybe bump into little situations where people, and I'm also a massage therapist. And so people sometimes want to have judgments or feelings or thoughts about all that. Can you tell me a little more about how you think for those men, for those of you men that are listening and women too, but maybe specifically along the line of for the men that are thinking yoga is just maybe, can I do it as a man? Can you give me a little insight into what you've witnessed with men coming together in men's groups and what sort of challenges and outcomes have you witnessed?
It's the most meaningful work that I've been doing recently because I need it a lot, especially as I take on more responsibility in business and in family. Like, I'll fuck it up if I don't step up my game as a mature, responsible, generative, masculine presence in the world. And the studies of masculinity that I'm really interested in come from the perspective of uh, the Jungian study of archetypes, and that there's four predominant male archetypes across culture since the beginning of recorded history. We see these uh, coming up again and again, and it's the king, the warrior, the magician, and the lover. And those are close enough to the four margas or paths of yoga if we want to also extract or apply yoga to this conversation. Let me go back for a second. Yoga was originally created as for men, more or less. I mean, ancient yoga essentially was reserved for the Brahmin caste, who were all male priests. And that initiatory process was from guru to sheshya, which was the teacher to the student, one-on-one oral transmission. And there were great female yoginis practicing, in the medieval times, and stretching back, there's some historical evidence about that. But for men who would feel ostracized from a modern yoga practice because it's for women, it's interesting because yoga was originally intended for men, and that's part of the Indian culture, and maybe it's out of date. I'm not saying that it should be, but it was. And now yoga has been commodified quite a bit, and it's become like this very branded subject, and everyone wants their Lululemon tights, and the product industries around yoga are definitely geared towards women. And I know that there's also like good yoga clothes for men, and that's great, but it's been marketed for women a lot. Um, for me, it was important because maybe of like my sexual energy, and like as a young man, I was so much falling in love with my female yoga teachers early on. Like right away, I went into the studios and there was all of these beautiful women teaching yoga, and I couldn't concentrate on yoga. So I found like a male teacher who was my first serious teacher, and just observing his body, I felt more familiar. Like I could understand he had a similar like limitation in like the narrowness of his hips and the breadth of his shoulders. And I concentrated in a different way. Um, so having a male teacher helped me um, kind of relate to male through the male mode of feeling, expression, and you see it. The practice works whether you're whatever orientation you take as a soul and a body. The practice itself creates transformation on the physical plane all the way to that very subtle level of your existence. So don't wait. You get so many people that come in, young people that say like, "Oh, I should have started years ago. It's too late." I'm like, I have 80-year-old students coming for the first time, and they're all in. They're like, "Wow, I'm so glad I found this practice." It's never too late to start, but the sooner you have that first experience, the better, because it's likely that you'll love it and that you can just get going. Don't delay
Yeah.
the journey. Give it a shot. And lastly, if you have a teacher, it's really important. Your teacher, they have to resonate with you. So if you go to a yoga class and you don't love it, doesn't mean that yoga is not for you. It might mean that that teacher just wasn't your flavor, and that I would suggest that you try again through a different style or through a different teacher.
Amazing. Great point. I agree with that 100%.
You got to
Well,
try it. Yoga's good for men. It's really good, and it helped me come down from this intense life view, which was hard to hold up. It was a lot of pressure, and there's this decompression, or this like landing into your life, this surrender, right? This Ishvara Pranidhana, and it gives you like maybe your first glimpse that what it could feel like to just let go, to let yourself off the hook, to have some faith, to practice really like physically and energetically releasing the weight of the world which we carry as men. And we give men a stone when they come to the men's group or they come to men's retreat, and that represents this weight that we carry, the weight that we carry of our ancestors and men that have come before us, who also haven't really been allowed to feel the full spectrum of the human heart, which is the realm of the lover. And until we just acknowledge that this weight is within us, then we can't do much about it. And when we become aware of it and we take it out and hold it and recognize it, especially with other men in a safe space, then we can begin doing something about it. And there's so many ways to do something about it, but recognizing that, and yoga is a way to reveal that which we hold, and then it's a path to let us release some of that and lighten up.
wow, man. Well said. Your website is peaceloveflourish.com. You said your next retreat is in Peru, Machu Picchu, correct?
Ooh.
November?
Yeah, we have
What
an
what are
event
the
in
dates?
Chicago.
Is it prior to the Thanksgiving holiday or is it during?
It's prior. It's November 1st to November 11th, and we'll be hitting up some of these incredible sites in Peru, from Machu Picchu to Lake Titicaca, supposedly the sacral chakra of planet Earth, as well as some other really special sites like the Rainbow Mountain and Lake Humante. As far as making money goes, Flourish is always trying to find a sweet spot, as far as making it as accessible as possible and also providing these really elevated experiences. So we'll be staying at some quite exquisite accommodations, mostly five-star hotels. So like luxuriating when you land and then getting out to the far crevices and cracks of the Andean mountain range to find out what all of those wonderful places feel like.
Oh man,
That's
that sounds
coming up. And next year's probably Japan. Um, and then we have men's retreat, women's retreat with Catalina. We have Paradise Retreat every year, which is like a beachfront immersion, 6, 7 days, a lot of practice. And then this pilgrimage last year, India, this year, Peru, next year, Japan is a deep dive into culture and kind of transformational travel where we don't practice quite as much, but like we're really soaking up the essence of these beautiful places.
wow. How cool, Pat. Dude,
Come with us,
you're
dude. Come
doing
lead us.
it. You I love how you're taking your dream and just putting it into reality. That is awesome. So cool, man. I mean, yes, that sounds incredible. I would love to join. I know I get
Not
excited
always
because I,
easy. But
yeah,
we bring on people like you who are excellent, and there's like a quality of a Flourish facilitator who is really experienced and also really lovely and playful and inviting. And you have that. I'm sitting here with you, and I just see your soul shining through your eyes. You have this beautiful smile, and you're just like an intelligent, talented, heart-centered man, and that's what the world needs so much right now. Maybe there's an opportunity for us to continue the conversation and talk about what a men's group might look like at your awesome studio, just for your community.
yeah,
There's
man,
some
that sounds
direct
great.
text that can kind of show you like what one session, second session, third session might look like, and it's pretty
Yeah.
conversational and relationship building style. So
Cool, cool. I'm totally open to that. I know and I've been grooving on like you live in a beautiful location. You love San Diego. I agree, it's amazing out there. I feel the same where we are here. I just think sometimes I try to like trick myself and like in this not trick myself, but in the sense of I already live in a beautiful, incredible location. I often am like, I want to go. I love travel too. So I'm like, I want to go. I want to go. I want to go somewhere else. And then I'll be like, you are somewhere else right now, Todd. Like, this is the somewhere else. Like, why is the somewhere else somewhere else? This is the somewhere else right now. But I do think going somewhere else does take us out of our habitual routine. And I mean, every time I land off of something, a boat, a plane, a
mm,
whatever, a bicycle, and you like smell and you get the different temperature and just like it does something to the senses. It does something to the like I guess when you made the picture of the bhakti now being so happy he gets to count the leaves for enlightenment, it's like having that like little jolt of something different does help us to see the world differently. So that's so cool, man. Well, I'm so happy I got a chance to meet you. Thank you so much for this opportunity to talk. I can't wait to continue our conversation. Hopefully to meet in person in future, be it Japan or Peru or any one of these locations, San Diego, Juno Beach, Florida.
Juno
Um,
Beach next year when I come down for Tony Robbins. Let's go.
awesome. And he was just here. One of our clients went to one of his business meetings, like a 7 day thing. She came back so freaking jazzed, man. She was so pumped up. And I was like, all right, all right. I
There's
know
something
he's got
there.
some magic for sure. I keep people that go, they come back, they're like, man, he's so good. So yeah, definitely. I know it's gonna happen. And then I just had a funny thought. What if one day like moon travel? We'll do a men's retreat on the moon. I'm kidding. You never know though. In our lifetime, it's getting so close. I mean, Elon's launching rockets every freaking day here in Florida. Like I get a little alert on my app. Next rocket launching 7:30 at night. You go out, you see this big old blaze of glory going up there every day. It's crazy. I bet before you know it. Now I don't want to have the experience. Have you been tripping out on the thought of those two people up in space right now that are like they went for a 10-day retreat, turning into the 8-month retreat, sitting out in outer space, floating around? Can you even imagine the mind frame? You know what I mean? Like
Dude, I don't even know that this is happening right now. That's a new story. I maybe have been a bit, my
Oh
head under
yeah.
a rock
You
for
got a
the
lot
last
going on.
eight
You got a lot
months.
going on. Yeah, check it out. There's some people that got
Wow.
launched off into space and they're stuck out there. And apparently
Wait,
Elon is going to go try to rescue them.
how are they doing? It's like mentally
I mean, can you
contact?
even imagine? I mean, I
No.
don't see how our physical body would sustain 7 months of no gravity. I can't imagine they're going to come back feeling all that physically amazing, but spiritually they might be enlightened. I mean, I keep
Mm.
thinking about the movie with Tom Hanks, the Wilson, the
Yeah.
I can't think of
Cat.
the Castaway. Thank you. You know, just that relationship, how important it is if we don't have human contact. I mean, the isolation of the yogi in the cave, wonderful, but there we do need contact. We do, I don't know if we can remain sane without another brain to bounce or mirror ourselves off of. So relationship is absolutely critical. I keep thinking of these two people in this little cell together floating around in space and like, well, I mean, are you guys going to love each other? Would you want to kill them? Like, I hate to say that. That's a very violent thought. But I mean, can you imagine being locked up with your worst roommate of your life? Like, like when you can't get away, you can't go down to the river, you can't escape for a second. Wow. I just been trying to
What a
put my,
karmic unfolding.
I know, I've been trying
Did
to put
they
myself,
do to deserve that in this
Did
lifetime? My God.
I know. I've been
Yeah,
putting myself up there with them, just like trying to feel it with them and also just like pray for them and just like, you guys got this. You can do this. You can do this. You can get through this. Cause I've been in some pretty interesting isolated environments and situations where I thought, am I going to make it? So whoa. I know I just took us on a different tangent, but and I know we have to sign off because we have a certain amount of time together, but dude, I've loved this opportunity. Thank you so much, Pat, and I can't wait to release this episode and everybody listening, thank you for being patient and hope you enjoyed these stories as much as I feel like we enjoyed, listening and talking to each other. Thank you, Pat, so much, man. I can't wait to reconnect.
much love, brother.
Yeah.
You.